10 spine-chilling Craigslist encounters. Terrifying stories that will keep you wide awake tonight. Jessica always thought she knew her calm suburban neighborhood of Maplewood. The familiar streets lined with leafy trees, kids giggling as they played outside, families grilling in their backyards. But as she pulled her beat-up old car into the driveway of a stranger's house, a sinking feeling twisted in her gut. She was desperate. 2 kids and bills piling up had pushed her to this moment. Cleaning someone's home for quick cash from Craigslist seemed simple enough, even if the ad felt a little off-kilter. But now, a strange vibe pulsed around this house adorned with twisted yard ornaments that hunched over like lurking shadows. As she stepped inside into a suffocating air of bleach mixed with something darker, her instinct screamed to leave. Yet the thought of her children's hungry bellies held her in place. Strong and resilient, she'd figured this out. The woman who greeted her was odd, her frayed smile not quite aligning with the wild hair framing her gaunt face. With an unsettling cheerfulness, she offered Jessica a cup of something steaming. She dared not smell it as she began to dust furniture and wipe counters. Bits of conversation flowed, erratic tales of missing pets and the oddest artwork scattered throughout the house. Each object seemed more grotesque than the last, and all too human. As Jessica's hands moved mechanically along the dust, exploring the oddities around her, a chill seeped down her spine. Why did the photographs of even stranger animals seem to watch her? And why were there framed pictures of missing women on the wall directly across? Their eyes, deep and knowing, crept under her skin, sending waves of prickling dread crashing over her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jessica barely heard the woman's ramble as her heart raced. She tried to focus on cleaning while the overwhelming sense of dread engulfed her. The air felt thicker. A small door around the corner caught her eye, slightly ajar. Dread gripped her. Should she look? Curiosity could lead to bad decisions, but something inside urged her forward. Pushing the door open, a suffocating darkness spilled out, revealing a hidden room. Photos plastered the walls, disturbing images of the missing women. Each face echoed familiarity. Was that her? Panic surged. Desperation took over. As she spun around to flee, the woman stood there, blocking her escape, her frayed smile now twisted in malevolence. Jessica sprinted, her instincts kicked in like a hammer against glass. She bolted down the hallways that blurred memories of previous safety, laughing children transformed into echoes of her worst fears. The home was a maze, disorienting, shadows closing in. Outside, the calming suburban world vanished. The street, usually a haven, morphed into a cauldron of hidden terror. Could she trust anyone? With each step, the dread deepened. As she burst through the front door into the cool night, the familiar neighborhood now felt alien. Shadows of her neighbors lingered by darkened windows, silhouettes watching with empty curiosity as she raced past. Fear settled in her stomach like a stone. She was no longer just escaping a stranger, but the layers of malevolence layered tightly under the surface of her life. Had she really escaped? Or was this just the beginning of a nightmare? Jessica ran, her breath coming in harsh gasps as she darted through the dimly lit streets of Maplewood. The comforting suburbs morphed into a sinister maze. The calm houses she once knew now loomed like watchful sentinels, their windows like black eyes following her frantic escape. Each shadow cast on the pavement seemed to whisper her name, taunting her panic with icy fingers of dread. Turning the corner, she ducked into an alley, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. It felt as if the very night had conspired against her, shrouding her in a cloak of uncertainty and fear. She pressed her back against the cold brick wall, eyes darting around for signs of pursuit. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant rustling of leaves and the faint echo of her own thoughts. What had she stumbled into? Panic came in waves, each cresting higher than the last, suffocating as she replayed the woman's twisted smile and the haphazard clutter of the house filled with secrets. She had barely registered the missing women's faces before bolting away, their expressions haunting her like the ghost of a bad dream. Then her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, startling her. Shakily, she fished it out, the screen illuminating her pale face with its bright glow. There was a message from an unknown number. "Don't trust them. They're watching." Every instinct screamed to flee, yet she was rooted to the spot, paralyzed with dread. Who sent this? How did they know? Frantically, she glanced around. Somewhere in the distance, a door creaked slowly open, breaking the fragile silence. Jessica's heart raced again as her mind flared with images of the woman, her living room filled with peculiar artistry, the strange vibe of that house. What had she missed? What had she overlooked? The room. It felt more like a shrine than simply a space. The phone buzzed again, and this time it was a call. Against her better judgment, she answered, her voice trembling. "Hello?" There was no immediate response. Just the sound of breathing, slow and deliberate. Then a chilling voice broke the silence. "You shouldn't be out here. Come back while you still can." It was the same woman. Jessica felt nausea rise in her throat, a tidal wave of grief and terror crashing over her. She had to get away. She had to reach the safety of home, back to her children, but her legs felt heavy, as if the ground beneath her had conspired to keep her in place. Each second of inaction felt like it could cost her dearly. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." The voice continued, muffled now, but all too familiar. Who are you?" she stammered. "Somewhere you would never think to look." The voice trailed off menacingly, feeding the shadows lurking in her mind. The grip of terror turned crisper, sharper. A frigid wind swept through the alley, sending a chill up her spine. The whispers returned, the dark invitations cradling her like a siren's song. "No! No!" she shouted into the night. Frantically checking her surroundings, her eyes was drawn to something on the ground, a small charm, wet and gleaming. It was an ornate key, contorted with the same grotesque designs she had glimpsed in the woman's home. A choice hit her. She could keep running, plunge deeper into the unknown, or return. What lay behind those walls? A trap? An escape? Would knowledge free her or consume her? As she stood there in the dimness, gripped by indecision, shadows began to shift, subtle, yet unmistakable. They were gathering, creeping closer, feeding off her fear as she clutched the key tightly. Would she face the woman again, dive back into the darkness she had tried so desperately to flee, or would she become yet another whisper in the night? The choice trembled on the edge of her lips, the weight of her decision wrapping around her, suffocating as the shadows beckoned her closer. The night held its breath, and so did Jessica as she took a step toward the door that would change everything. Jessica's foot barely grazed the threshold of the door before a sinister compulsion pulled her back. The key burned in her palm, an acute reminder of the choice she faced. A thud echoed in the alley, squashing the silence like a heavy weight. Panic surged through her veins. What if the woman was right? What if something terrible awaited her in that house? The thought gripped her, lancing through reason with terrifying clarity. Yet, the shadows were alive now, not merely watching but coiling tighter, creeping closer, their intentions unfurling like dark petals in the moonlight. She dashed deeper into the alley, her breath quickening, pulling her toward the familiar embrace of the neighborhood's comforting lights. Home wasn't far. Just past a few more corners, and she'd be safe, cocooned in the mundane reality of her life. Then, she heard it again, a whispered sound, stronger this time, almost like a name woven into the night. Was it her name? Jessica? Or was it just an echo, a figment of her relentless fear? With every instinct screaming at her to run, she stumbled forward, footsteps clattering against the pavement, breaking the solitude. But dread settled over her once more as she realized the whispers were turning into laughter, a twisted, mocking laughter. It swirled around her, knotting her insides tighter, choking all thoughts of safety. At the end of the alley, she stopped, peering into the darkness. Something flickered, a half-lit lantern, swinging with slow menace on a chain. The alluring glow beckoned her. A memory tugged at her. It reminded her of a time when the warmth of light meant safety, not malice. But as she stepped closer, the laughter stopped, replaced by an unsettling stillness. It was almost as if the world had paused, holding a collective breath. She squinted down the road, every nerve on edge. Where were the shadows now? Had they retreated? Jessica took another step, entering the light's periphery. The warmth didn't soothe her but amplified a gnawing awareness that she was being stripped bare, laid open before unseen eyes. Shivers raced down her spine as she realized she was not alone. Footsteps, a slow, deliberate echo of her own. She turned suddenly, searching the dark behind her, tripping over her own fear. The alley was empty, or was it? Dread curled inside her like a snake, twisting tighter. "Stop," she whispered sharply, fingers twitching, ready to lash out, fight for her life if necessary. She heard it again, the soft cadence of footsteps, a rhythm just out of sync with her own. The laughter returned, ghostly and brittle, turning the hairs on her arms into prickling sentinels. "Jessica." A soft voice crooned from behind her, familiar yet laced with something dreadful, something impossibly wrong. "Jessica, come to me." Before she could respond, the lantern flickered violently and went dark, plunging her back into heavy night. The laughter twisted into a cackle, sharp and jagged, slicing through the air. She spun, her pulse pounding like a war drum, heart hammering against her ribs. What she saw made her breath hitch. A figure loomed, a silhouette between her and the dim light, a guttural shape, a twisted grin. The voice resonated, "You took too long. Now, it's time to play." In that instant, sheer terror gripped her being. Jessica bolted back down the alley, her feet pounding against the ground. The face of the woman had returned, twisted, sinister, an echo of wrath and intent. The night was alive, darkness swirling around her feet like tendrils, pulling her, as if it knew her, as if it wanted her. Each corner she turned felt like a descent into further horror, as whispers filled her head. Somewhere in the chaos, she realized something important. Safety wasn't ahead, it was a mirage. She was trapped within this wretched game. The laughter followed, relentless, shrill and mocking. And then, a surprising thought knocked at her mind. What if she could turn the game on its head? What if she could flip the script? The shadows beckoned and the figure danced within them, taunting her as she collated her. Resolve. The key burned hotter in her palm now, not just an object but a symbol of her defiance. What use was running when the truth could unlock her escape? Jessica felt the weight of her decision surge again. She would confront the darkness. And as the figure lunging for her escape, she would open the door to the unknown and fight for her life, even if it meant embracing what awaited her inside. What horrors would she unleash by turning the key? What truths lurked in the shadowy recess of the woman's world? Jessica's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the shadow lunging toward her. It was a malformed silhouette, a distortion of something once human. She clenched the key tighter, its sharp edges pressing into her palm, grounding her in this moment of terror. She had no other choice. It was time to uncover the truth behind it all. The figure paused, a glint of malevolent curiosity flickering across its twisted grin. "Are you ready to play, Jessica?" The voice rolled out in waves, dripping with mockery. Each syllable wound around her, constricting harder than the shadows. "Not this time," she spat back, defiance igniting within her. She was done running, this was her stand. She had to believe there was something more than this endless cycle of fear. With a swift movement, she grasped the key firmly, feeling the weight shift from dread to resolve. The instant her fingers brushed its cold metal surface, an electric pulse surged through her. The darkness swirled even tighter, testing her as if to taunt her audacity. "Open the door!" a voice urged, soft and wispy, leaking from the depths of the darkness. It was not mocking like the figure before her. It felt almost like a plea. The shadows stilled, allowing an eerie silence to settle around them. Jessica turned, no longer paying attention to the figure. She had a direction now, a destination: the door. She sprinted forward, heart pounding, driven by a raw instinct. But the ground seemed to conspire against her. The shadows entwined around her feet, pulling her back, as if the alley itself wanted to reclaim her. She stumbled, nearly falling, but fired up by adrenaline, she kicked against the ground, breaking loose of their grip. The door loomed ahead, looming and heavy, casting an ominous shape beneath the moonlight. The shadows thrashed and writhed behind her, but she was focused, intent. "I wouldn't let you have me," she shouted. Jessica slammed the key into the lock. It felt impossibly heavy as she twisted it. A loud click echoed in the stillness, and the door cracked open just as the figure lunged once more. With a surge of adrenaline, she shoved the door wide open, stumbling inside. Immediately, a cold gust of wind followed her through, slamming the door shut behind her with a violent thud. Jessica gasped, the noise resonating in the darkness, swallowing her. Inside was an expanse of shadows and silence, broken only by the thumping of her heart and the whisper of the wind. The space felt like a cavern, a limbo where light dared not enter. She took a step forward, weary and cautious. "Welcome home," the eerie voice returned, wrapping around her like a shroud. It sounded almost like a caress, but the weight of fear settled deep in her gut. The air was thick with an ancient presence, as if the walls themselves had absorbed countless souls before her. What have I just walked into? Jessica's mind raced, grappling with the unknown. She felt the shadows seep around her, caressing her skin, testing her resolve. She raised her head, trying to pierce the gloom, eyes falling on dull, flickering lights hanging from unseen fixtures. Were those remnants of forgotten memories, or mere glitches in the veil of this space? Suddenly, the figure from the alley appeared near the door, its mouth twisting in silent laughter. As it leaned into view, its grotesquely stretched form solidified, revealing a face cloaked in despair, eyes hollow and hungry. "Did you think you could escape? This is where your game truly begins, Jessica." An overwhelming wave of panic swept through her like ice water, momentarily freezing her resolve. Then the shadows behind the figure shifted, revealing more shapes, more forms emerging, drawn toward her. "Now or never," she thought, her heart hammering louder than ever. Clenching the key tightly, she prepared to confront what awaited her in this twisted domain. What secrets did this unholy place hold? And could she unravel them before they consumed her entirely? The suffocating darkness beckoned, and she stood on the precipice of a truth that may shatter her very being. Could she survive the revelations that were about to unfold? The shadows encircled Jessica like an oppressive fog, coiling tighter and tighter. Her pulse quickened as she backed away, eyes darting to the grotesque figure still laughing by the door. Behind it, even darker shapes writhed, whispers that sounded like tortured souls echoing through the cavernous space. "Why did you come here?" The hollow-eyed figure sneered, voice sinister and smooth. "You think breaking the door was the hard part?" Jessica shook her head, desperation coursing through her. "I needed to know the truth. Whatever this is, I can't be afraid anymore." The fabric of darkness rippled as if responding to her defiance, and silence fell, heavy and thick. Then, the figure stepped forward, long fingers twitching like a spider's legs. "Courage? It's a distorted memory here. Will you accept the game, or will you flee?" Without thinking, she narrowed her eyes. "I'll play. But I won't lose." It grinned, sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light. "Very good," it replied, the mockery oozing from every syllable. The surrounding shadows shifted, forming shapes that revealed eyes, countless eyes watching, waiting. "Choose wisely, Jessica," it said, stepping aside to reveal a path between flickering lights that overhead balefully illuminated the area. "Will you face your darkest fear or unlock a secret long buried? Each choice comes with a price." Jessica hesitated, scanning the tension-filled air. The walls whispered, the atmosphere thick with dread. The walls felt alive, pressing in, hungry for her choices. "Will you make me suffer?" she asked, her voice taut as a drawn bow. "It's not suffering if you find the truth," it responded, laughter spilling out like venom. "And truth often tastes bitter." Heart racing, she stepped forward, caught between curiosity and terror. She felt like prey entering the hunter's lair. But as she passed under the dim lights, Something caught her eye, a tattered banner hanging from the ceiling, words barely legible. "Face your past or drown in the dark." "Your past, how quaint," the figure cackled. "A treasure trove of nightmares awaits." Jessica's breath hitched as visions flooded her mind, faces, places, moments that shouldn't haunt her, but somehow did. She gritted her teeth, forcing herself to remember. "Pick a door," the figure spat, pointing toward a trio of doors revealed from swirling shadows. One was painted crimson, a mark of fresh blood streaking down the wood. Another appeared to be made of rusted iron, covered in deep scratches. The last looked innocuous, a plain wooden door, almost inviting. What if each door led to a darker truth? Panic clawed at her gut, each door a reminder of potential regret. An anxiety that felt suffocating settled over her. All she had was that blasted key, the weight of her choice pressing heavy on her heart. Before she could think, the dark laughter filled the air again. "Choose, Jessica. Will you drown in the memories, or will you reveal what lurks beneath?" The shadows closed in, shadows whispering secrets meant only for her. One step closer to the door, and she could feel the pulse of something sinister vibrating beneath her feet. The weight of many lost souls hovered, surrounding her with palpable dread. A low hiss whispered from the crimson door, secrets beckoning her closer. What lay beyond those doors? Was she ready to uncover the truth, no matter the cost? Time slowed as she stood before them, each breath a moment lost in uncertainty. And then she made her choice. The sound of the key clicking in the lock echoed through the air, sending a shiver down Jessica's spine. With trembling hands, she turned the knob on the crimson door, and it creaked open, revealing an abyss of darkness that seemed to consume the flickering light around her. A breath caught in her throat. Her heart raced violently, each beat resonating like a war drum in the silence. As she stepped across the threshold, cold air enveloped her, smelling of damp earth and something metallic. The door slammed shut behind her, the sound sharp and final. Shadows pressed in from all sides like a living thing, and Jessica instinctively wrapped her arms around herself, trying to fend off the chill creeping through her bones. "Welcome back, Jessica," a voice slithered from the darkness, oily and familiar. She turned her head, eyes straining to see, but the shadows kept their secrets. A soft lumiere flickered to life, illuminating a small room filled with photographs, her photographs. Images of her childhood, moments she thought were lost to time. There she stood, grinning on a tire swing, her mother's laughter echoing in the background. Each picture had one thing in common, a shadow in the corner, lurking just out of sight, growing darker with each image. "Do you remember this?" the voice asked, buzzing with malice. "Your mother's smile? Your happiness? Or did you forget the horror that followed?" The walls began to pulse, the photographs shifting as if alive. Jessica's stomach twisted as memories flooded back, fear laced with guilt. The day she had run away, the shadows had come out to play, dragging her mother into darkness she couldn't begin to understand. "No! I didn't forget!" she shouted, desperate to drown out the voice. "I lived with it every day." "Did you?" The figure materialized from the shadows, a twisted reflection of the grotesque shape she had seen before. "Or are those just pretty lies you tell yourself? What really happened that day? Let us find out." With a snap, the room morphed around her, and she was transported back to that fateful moment. It felt real. Warmth flickered in the air like a memory trapped in the haze. Jessica felt the sun on her face, heard the laughter, but it was all tainted with foreboding. "No!" she screamed, trying to shield her eyes from the unraveling tragedy around her. She saw herself as a child, running toward the woods, her mother's voice thin and frail, pleading her name, but darkness swallowed it whole. Shadows danced, creeping nearer with mock invitations. "You can still save her," the figure whispered, its breath hot against her ear. "Just face the truth. There's always a price for lying to yourself." A heavy weight pressed against her chest, forcing her to confront the memory, the guilt festering like an open wound. She bit her lip, the taste of iron flooding her mouth. "But what if the truth is too terrible?" The figure laughed, an eerie sound that echoed through her. Terrible or not, it's yours. Open your eyes, or remain a prisoner to these shadows forever. Jessica gritted her teeth, torn between the whispers urging her to turn away and the insistent call of her past. Suddenly, the photographs flickered, shifting to a new image, the rusted iron door from before, glimmering like a hidden treasure. Will you choose again, or stay lost in your memories? The mocking voice echoed, darkness swirling more fiercely around her. The air crackled with an unsettling energy. Jessica's breath hitched. She had to act, but fear froze her in place. Will you drown in the dark, or will you confront what waits beyond? It was a gamble. Would she choose safety or plunge deeper into darkness? In that moment of wavering doubt, she felt the door tremble behind her, aching with yearning. And then she heard it, the sound of her mother's voice, distant yet close, drawing her toward either the iron door or deeper into the abyss. What choice would she make? What truth awaited her? The air thickened as Jessica stood torn between two worlds, her mother's voice pulling her like a siren's call. It sounded sweet and filled with longing, but shadows crowded in closer, whispering twisted tales of loss and despair. Each heartbeat drummed louder, drowning out her reason. Go to her, Jessica, the figure hissed, fading slightly as the shadows writhed around its edges. Maybe this time you'll save her. The plea twisted her stomach into knots. She glanced at the iron door, its rusty surface beckoning like an old friend. But behind it, she felt the weight of unspeakable darkness, one that could smother her and leave nothing but a ghost in its place. Is she really there? Jessica murmured, half to herself, half to the ghastly apparition looming in the shadows. Or are you just playing tricks with my mind? Only the truth can guide you, the figure sneered, a grin stretching its twisted features. But be careful what you seek, the darkness has teeth. Jessica staggered back, the weight of those words sinking into her. What if the truth kills me? She whispered, the heaviness of uncertainty wrapping around her throat like a noose. Then you'll join her in darkness, the voice sang, triumphant and chilling. The photographs trembled on the walls, shifting once more, but this time revealing fleeting glimpses of her life growing up, the laughter, the quiet moments that formed the threads of her existence, each memory tainted, each joy weighed down by the shadow lurking just out of view. With a fractured breath, she moved toward the iron door. The shadows hissed, but the lure of her mother's voice silenced them. Jessica, my darling, it echoed, sweet and desperate. Come back to me. As her fingers brushed the door, chills ran down her spine, feeling the temptation of what lay beyond. The memories were vivid hugs, smiles, warmth, but shadows clung to the edges, a reminder of the fracture that had shattered it all. Just a step away, she heard the figure taunt, now hiding in the corner, gloating. Your mother's lost in the dark like you, forever. The truth clawed at her, urging her not to fall for the false promises. She hesitated, pulse racing, the still air crackling with tension. Another step, and she could swing the door open, spilling out into the comfort of her memories or lose herself entirely. With one swift motion, she turned back. Enough was enough. She needed to face the figure. What have you done? She shouted into the cavernous darkness, fury boiling over her fear. Unexpectedly, the walls splintered with echoes of her own screams, not just the figure's. Images of her past merged with present agony, illuminating the truth she had always avoided. There was betrayal, guilt, and a laugh so cold it sent ripples of ice down her spine. Face it, Jessica. The figure crooned, its voice stretching into a haunting melody. You were never meant to save her. You were meant to lose, and I'll show you how. The room shifted violently, and she was thrown into another memory, one devoid of light. The shadows tightened their grip, wrapping around her tightly like vines, squeezing the air from her lungs. Panic surged, and she thrashed against the unseeable hands. You can't hide from your own heart. The figure whispered, closer now, as if it were beside her, pressing in like a phantom. Embrace what you really are. In that swirl of chaos, Jessica began to remember the choices she had made, the ones that separated her from her mother. Choices driven by fear, driven by the shadows dancing just beyond her reach. With newfound determination, she pulled back, fight igniting her resolve. No! I refuse to let you take me. Something snapped inside her, and the darkness recoiled. With a scream that tore through the air, she hurled herself toward the iron door, desperation fueling her desperate move. But as she reached the handle, the floor shifted beneath her, and the damp scent of earth surged, screaming of horror yet to unfold. In that terrifying moment, she realized the truth was not waiting for her behind the door, it lay in the shadows themselves. What awaited her in that dark abyss? Jessica gasped as the ground quaked beneath her feet, throwing her off balance. Barely catching herself, she slammed her back against the cool iron door, her heart racing like a caged animal. The air thickened even more, pressing down on her like a weighted blanket, and around her, the shadows swirled with renewed fury, their whispers rising to a deafening crescendo. "Let me go!" she cried, her voice cracking like dry wood under pressure. The figure seemed to revel in her torment, its visage morphing with delight. "You're only delaying the inevitable. You can't escape what you are." What she was! Fragments of confusion danced through her mind, sharp and piercing. She could not allow fear to rule her, she had come too far, faced too many terrible truths. Yet every instinct screamed at her to flee. The darkness breathed, shifting like a predator, too close for comfort. "Your mother's fate is bound to yours," the figure taunted. "You're both entwined, forever lost." Suddenly, a low rumble reverberated through the walls, as if the house itself were groaning in anguish. The room darkened, shadows slithering toward her ankles, ready to ensnare her in their wicked grasp. Jessica panted, sweat trickling down her brow, mixing with the icy dread settling in her stomach. "Fight! Fight it!" A voice echoed from somewhere deep inside her, a whisper of rebellion. "Mama? Could it be?" She took a step back from the door, the handle still cool against her clammy palm. Her fingers tingled, reluctant to let go. Could her mother still be there, waiting on the other side of that threshold? Or would that door lead her to an even deeper darkness? "Do you truly want to know?" the figure rasped, its voice slithering into her ears like smoke. "Take another step, and you'll see the truth of your desires. Just one more push." "What's the truth?" Jessica shouted, voice raw, defiance coursing through her veins. She felt stronger now. The shadows hesitated, flickering like candle flames. "That I was never good enough? That I failed you?" "Yes." The words sliced through the air, sharp and resonant. "And the shadows will prove it. Let them embrace you. Let them show you the real you." "No!" she screamed, shaking her head fiercely. "They wouldn't win." The memory of warmth, of love, and laughter lit a pilot flame in her chest. "Not yet." The ground shook violently again, and the shadows burst forth, a cacophony of hissing whispers filling her ears, crashing over her like waves. "Join your mother. Embrace the dark. You belong here." Jessica summoned all the power she could muster. "No! I will not!" With a sudden surge of instinct, she yanked open the iron door, light spilling in like fresh air into her lungs. The shadows screeched, a banshee-esque wail of fury and despair, retreating as if struck. For the tiniest moment, she felt victorious, but something deep inside her whispered hesitation. What if her mother was really behind the door? She hesitated, breath hitching in her throat. Was it safe to cross the threshold? Would she find sanctuary or a deeper nightmare? Then, before she could think, she stepped into the light. The world turned. Everything shifted, fracturing around her. The room dissolved, tiles spinning like a kaleidoscope, until suddenly silence. Jessica found herself standing in a familiar place, one her memories told her should feel comforting. But as she looked around, dread washed over her. "Welcome home, Jessica," a voice cooed, familiar yet tainted with malice. Her heart sank. She wasn't in a safe place after all. She was back where it all began. But with her, an unseen presence rustled, weaving through the fading light, waiting, watching. What awaited her in this haunting echo of yesteryears? Would she finally confront the truth, or had she only stepped deeper into the web of shadows? The air was thick here, suffocating in its familiarity, yet tinged with an unsettling discord. Jessica stood in the dim hallway of her childhood home, the old wallpaper curling at the edges, stained with memories she wished to forget. The sun had long since disappeared, leaving only slivers of dusk streaming through dusty windows. There, at the end of the corridor, stood the outline of a figure. It was too still, every nerve in her body screaming for her to turn and run, but the pull of recognition kept her rooted in place. "Mom?" she whispered, voice trembling, caught between hope and despair. "Jessica," the voice echoed back, ethereal and sweet, but with a vibrating darkness that made her skin crawl. "I've missed you. Come to me." But hadn't she escaped? Hadn't she come this far to break the cycle? And yet the warmth of her mother's love still tugged at her, deepening the ache in her heart. Each heartbeat felt heavier, as if it were acknowledging the gravity of the promises made in this very house. Clenching her fists, Jessica forced herself to take a step forward. The air sparked with static, making the tiny hairs on her arms stand on end. "What do you want?" she shouted, fearing an answer she already knew. "You," the shape replied, inching closer. "You always come back, don't you? This is where you belong." The hallway began to distort, twisting and bending like a funhouse mirror. Her surroundings flickered, her childhood toys morphing into grotesque parodies of themselves. The family portraits hung askew, faces warped in silent screams, accusing her of betrayal. Jessica stumbled forward, desperate to find clarity, a truth that would ground her in this nightmare reality. "Stop!" she commanded, voice cracking, panic swelling within her. The memories should feel like home, yet they stung like 1,000 forgotten mistakes. "I'm not coming back. I refuse to be a part of this." But the shadows, lurking in the corners, surged forward, whispering her failures, wrapping around her ankles, trying to pull her down. "You belong to us," they crooned, 100 voices merging into one, piercing her mind like needles. They knew her fears, her guilt. It was all laid bare, raw and exposed. "Leave me alone!" she cried, struggling against the grasp, fighting against the weight of her own insecurities. Each pull felt like 1,000 people were latching onto her fears, dragging her deeper into the suffocating darkness. She had to remember who she was before them, before the shadows closed in. Then, in the chaos, a soft light flickered behind her. She turned, and there it was, a doorway glowing with warmth, a gateway back to the world outside, back to reality. Hope beckoned like a lifeline. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony rising like a tidal wave. "You can't escape. You will return. Watch me." Jessica gritted her teeth. She sprinted toward the welcoming light, fear coiling in her gut. She could almost taste freedom as she lunged for the door, willing every ounce of strength into her legs. But just as she reached out, the figure advanced, blocking her path, a visage of twisted familiarity. "You were never allowed to leave." Jessica's breath quickened as the figure reached for her, latching onto her wrist, cold as ice. She could feel the life draining from her, panic erupting in her chest. "No! She wouldn't be trapped here again." "Oh, but we are just beginning," the figure whispered, twisting in agony and ecstasy. "You'll see." With every ounce of willpower, she tore away, surging into the light, but the darkness rose like a flood, threatening to engulf her once more. What if breaking free was just the start of something worse? Her fingers grazed the threshold as everything around her began to unravel. Would the light lead her to real freedom, or was it merely another trick, a seduction promising escape but delivering nothing more than despair? The clash of light and dark intensified, but what would the cost of escape be? Jessica's heart raced as she stood at the threshold, the pull of darkness fighting against the light shining just beyond her reach. Shadows writhed around her, their whispers echoing with the voices of those she had lost. The figure loomed close, hunger in its hollow eyes, reminding her of all that had haunted her for so long. "You can't escape your past," it screeched, twisting its form, taking on a face she thought she'd left behind. "You belong to us. You always have." With a surge of defiance, Jessica shouted back, "I won't let you control me anymore." Each word resonated, grounding her. The warmth of the light behind her beckoned like a siren, and she closed her eyes for a brief moment, envisioning her children's faces, their laughter filling her mind with hope. Fight for them. Fight for yourself. The voice of her mother echoed in her memory, urging her to push back against the shadows that threatened to pull her in. Feeling her resolve strengthen, Jessica lunged toward the light. Fear clawed desperately at her heels, but she was unyielding. The moment her fingers connected with the warm glow, an electric jolt rushed through her, igniting power within. Yes! She shouted, breaking free with a roar. This is my life! With a forceful shove, she plunged through the doorway, tumbling into the illumination. A burst of warmth enveloped her, solid and reassuring, as the chaos behind her shrieked in anguish. The shadows fell away, their clawing fingers losing their grip, as Jessica stepped into the light. She blinked, adapting to the brilliance that surrounded her. Gone were the oppressive walls and echoing fears. She found herself standing in a beautiful sunlit park, vibrant green grass stretching endlessly before her. Birds chirped with glee, and children's laughter rang out, familiar and welcoming. Jessica felt a mix of disbelief and elation wash over her. For the first time in years, she felt free, truly free. The shadows that had haunted her, the memories that had threatened to consume her, faded into a distant memory. Turning around slowly, she could see the dark house in the distance, the shadows curling and snaking along the ground, a mere specter of her past. Each moment she lingered in this newfound reality chipped away at their power, solidifying her strength. It was over. As if summoned by her thoughts, two small figures bounded towards her, laughter echoing in the sunlight. Her children, their faces bright with joy. Jessica dropped to her knees, arms wide, enveloping them in a tight embrace, relief washing over her. I'm home, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. No more running. No more fear. She had faced her demons and emerged alive. And as they pulled away, her daughter looked directly into her eyes, a knowing smile dancing on her lips. We were waiting for you to come back. Yeah, her son chimed in, his innocent enthusiasm palpable. You're brave, Mom. You beat the darkness. Jessica felt her heart swell with pride and love. I couldn't have done it without you. I promise I'll never leave again. The park glimmered around them, a new beginning unfurling under the open sky. Each breath was fresh, untethered from the chains of darkness. They walked hand in hand, laughter threading through the air like music, the weight of the past finally left behind. Jessica looked back one last time. The shadows shifted, retreating into nothingness as the beauty of the sun enveloped her family. She let go of the final remnants of fear, knowing the power of truth would light her way forever. In that moment, she realized she had not only escaped but transformed. Life lay ahead, rich with possibilities. She would cherish every moment, knowing shadows may try to creep in, but she was stronger now, ready to face whatever may come. And as they strolled toward the great unknown, the world felt safe again. But, if you want to uncover the secrets of the dark tales and brave it all like Jessica, you must subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't let your fear be the last chapter. Show your support for more spine-chilling stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm your love. This is the moment you get involved in the conversation. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Jessica's escape and the shadows she faced. We want to hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who are hungry for more thrilling twists and tales. Your support makes all the difference, and keeps these stories alive.